The meeting of the Rent Control Board is called back to order after its closed session. Anyone wishing to address the board on a specific item on tonight's agenda should have contacted our board secretary prior to tonight's meeting. If you would like to make a public comment, feel free to request to do so in the chat function in Blue Jeans, or you may dial 1-408-740-7256 using meeting ID 372-564-070 and passcode 6776. We will recognize the speakers and arrange to have them speak when it is their turn in the queue. Okay, moving on to a report of the closed session. Would our general counsel please give us a report?
Thank you, Chair. The board recessed into closed session at 6:05 p.m. and adjourned at 7:10 with no reportable action taken. And that's my report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the board's last meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Chorosis, second from Commissioner Foster. Let's take a vote.
Commissioner Phyllis.
Yes.
Commissioner Chorosis.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Vice Chair Duran.
Since I was not present, I'm going to abstain.
And Chair Stolzen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Moving on to special agenda items. Executive Director Condon, do we have any of these for today, including any announcements?
Yes, good evening. I have a couple of announcements. I'd like to mention again the COVID-19 rental relief program that is available with funds available through the state. As I've told you before, there were more than $7 billion in funds available to assist low and moderate income tenants cover unpaid rent and utilities, as well as future rent and utilities. As of this afternoon, the Housing is Key dashboard shows that 2,664 applications have been submitted for Santa Monica households, and 1,551 households have been served. That's 100 in just the last month, with average assistance of almost $16,000 per household, for total funds that have come to Santa Monica of more than $24.5 million. Requesting these funds can help people delay eviction and perhaps completely avoid eviction if they're able to get the funds. So if you believe you are eligible, please contact either housingiskey.com or call 833-430-2122 to see if you're eligible for this assistance. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the city will be conducting the 2022 homeless count on the night of January 26th from 11 p.m. till 3 a.m. The count results measure how local and regional strategies are working and help inform how and where resources will be deployed. Volunteers are still needed, both to assist in the block-by-block counting of people experiencing homelessness and to help with event logistics at the deployment location. So people who are interested in volunteering can find out more through the city's website at santamonica.gov. And that's what I have this evening.
Thank you. Okay, this is the time reserved for public.
I've got my hand up. I'm trying to ask Tracy a question.
I believe Commissioner Foster has a question. I'm looking at like 3 different screens. Yes, please.
Oh, okay, sorry. Tracy, if citizens, I've had 2 constituents contact me that they're having trouble, they're not getting responses to their applications that they've already put in. Is the city still conducting the help sessions?
Yes, they are. So somebody who would like assistance with that can call 311 and say that they are looking for help with the rental relief assistance application, and they will be referred to a city employee who will assist them, most likely somebody in the city attorney's office that's been working on this. And as you all know, there are also community members who are available to help people with their applications. So anybody experiencing that should call 311 and say that they're interested in getting some assistance with the rental relief program.
Thank you.
Can I just say something on that really quickly?
Yeah, Commissioner Trosa.
Yeah, sorry, just also the LA County Development Authority has been working countywide on behalf of HCD at the state, and they're in constant communication with the state. So if anyone has inquiries on the status of their specific application, they should also, Tracy, I don't know if anyone in the city is doing status checks, but I know that the LA County Development Authority is. Just letting people know.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And there's specific folks to contact at HCD if you're having difficulty pushing through your application. So it sounds like you can get help with accessing those folks through. And I know local legal services agencies are also doing this work.
Housingiskey.com
That's
or
the website.
and stayhousedla.com, Naomi.
Stay House LA, yes, if you are threatened with eviction.
Good.
StayHouseLA.com. Fill out the online application for legal assistance.
Sorry, we just talk about this at work, so we're.
Well, it's very important. So all the resources we can offer, absolutely.
Okay, so I think it's time to move on to public comment. This is when members of the public are able to address the board on matters that are not included in the agenda, but are within the board's subject matter jurisdiction. Note that the board can't take official action in tonight's meeting on any matter not included in the agenda that is raised in public comment. I don't believe we have any requests for public comment. Secretary Ho, is that correct?
Correct. No public comments, but I do want to remind the attendees that may have requested to speak on an item to use the information that they received around 7 p.m. today.
Thank you, Secretary Ho. All right, time to cover jurisdictional items. Our first item is 10A1, decrease petition D5259 regarding 2028 14th Street. May we have a staff report on that item?
Certainly, Commissioners. Good evening. This case concerns tenant Sarah Dottie, who is a tenant of Unit T at 2028 14th Street. And she had filed a rent decrease petition, and she had alleged various conditions and reductions of housing services. And the hearing officer granted her rent decreases totaling $305, which reduced her rent to $628. And that included a $35 decrease for reduction of her parking amenity. What the hearing officer had found is that when Ms. Dottie had moved into her unit, she had been assigned one uncovered parking space. And then subsequent to that, when her landlord, Community Corps, determined that that space was a fire code violation because it was in the driveway, they reassigned her to one of the carports. And because the carport was narrower, the hearing officer granted her the decrease. Ms. Dottie has appealed the decision, but she's appealed it more than 1 month after the appeals deadline. She contends that she never received a decision and only found out about it recently after a conversation with staff. And subsequently in her appeal, she argues that when she moved in, she was actually given 2 parking spaces. And because she only has 1 now, she should get an additional decrease for loss of that parking space. Board Regulation 4021 says that an appeal can be filed no later than 10 days after a decision has been issued. The board may accept later appeals upon a showing of good cause. Here, Ms. Dottie did not file her appeal until 40 days after the decision was issued. She says that she found out about it only after talking to staff that it had been issued. This claim, however, lacks credibility, as the email to which the agency sent the decision was the same email that Ms. Dottie had used just 2 weeks prior for submitting additional evidence and communicating repeatedly with hearing staff. It was also the email to which the board had a month earlier sent a notice reopening the matter to get more evidence. Ms. Dottie didn't explain why that email address was sufficient for one communication but not for the receipt of the decision. And although Ms. Dottie says that she never received that email, the email never was bounced back to indicate that it had not been delivered. So there's no credible evidence that Ms. Dottie never received the email decision, and therefore there was no good showing of good cause for accepting that appeal. So staff recommends that the board reject the appeal as untimely. As to the substance of her argument, even if Ms. Dottie had shown a good cause for acceptance of her late appeal, which she hasn't, the hearing officer's finding that Ms. Dottie had only one parking space is reasonably supported by the evidence. A tenant is entitled to a rent decrease or loss of an amenity only if that amenity was a housing service of her tenancy. And housing services are amenities that a tenant is entitled to at the outset of the tenancies when the landlord and the tenant agree to the initial base rent and the amenities that are paid for by that rent. So Ms. Dottie would only be entitled to an additional rent decrease if she could prove, and she bears the burden of proof in this, that she was provided a second space when she first moved into her unit. Ms. Dottie argues that she moved into her unit because the prior landlord had told her that that unit came with 2 spaces. In fact, she said that's the only reason that she and her husband moved into their current unit. Ms. Dottie testified that she moved into her Unit T at the end of October 2000. The record, however, shows that Community Corps already owned the property by then. So even if she's correct, she couldn't have moved into your unit in an agreement with her prior landlord. Moreover, the rent ledger that Community Corps has for this specific unit shows that Ms. Dottie and her husband moved into the unit on May 1st, 2001. And the tenant file in their records for Ms. Dottie includes a move-in information sheet that's dated June 25th, 2001 that says that Ms. Dottie moved into Unit T at Community Corps' request due to renovations, and that tenant file also requests the transfer of her security deposit from her prior unit. The rent ledger then shows that that security deposit was in fact transferred shortly thereafter in July 2001. Ms. Dottie argues that Community Corps' business records are doctored and fraudulent. But the hearing officer found that Ms. Dottie's own testimony about her move-in date is what lacked credibility. Besides saying that she moved into a unit in a prior agreement with the landlord when Community Corps already owned the property, she also testified that she never signed a lease with the old landlord before moving into Unit T. Then, at the second hearing, she contradicted herself, and she said that she had signed a formal lease with him, but had turned that lease over to Community Corps, who had never returned it to her. She also didn't provide any evidence that showed that Community Corps' business records had been altered. And although she claimed to have rent receipts that would corroborate her claimed move-in date and how Community Corps' records was unreliable, when the hearing officer asked for them, she refused to turn them over. Her inconsistent testimony wasn't limited to just the date that she moved into Unit T. She contradicted herself also as to where the alleged second parking space was located when she moved in. In the staff report, I provided 2 diagrams. One, the first diagram shows parking spaces when there was a storage and laundry room in the property, and the second diagram shows the parking spaces after that storage and laundry room had been converted into carports. At the first hearing, Ms. Dottie testified that when she moved into Unit T, she was allowed to keep on parking in the space 1 where she'd always parked, but that she was also assigned carport 2. And at the second hearing, she repeated that testimony. In fact, she added that they didn't realize that carport 2 was too small for a car because initially they were just parking their motorcycle in it. Then another tenant, Mr. Woods, testified that Ms. Dottie actually used to park in space 2 before carport 2 was created. So Ms. Dottie changed her testimony to say that it was actually space 2 that was her additional parking space when she had moved into Unit T. This inconsistent testimony even extended to the vehicle she owned. At the initial hearing, she testified that she moved into Unit T only because her husband was going to begin working, so they had to sell his motorcycle and buy an additional car, and her prior landlord had told her that Unit T came with 2 parking spaces, so it would work. She testified, in fact, she submitted a video from October 2000, which is the date that she says that she moved into her unit. And in that video, she pointed to a car, which she identified as her husband's new car. Then, in the next hearing, in the third hearing, she changed her testimony. And she admitted that the car in the video was actually a car they had rented for a road trip. She also changed her testimony regarding their motorcycle and admitted that they didn't actually get rid of their motorcycle after they bought their second car, but only after her husband had been involved in a motorcycle accident. Now, the record is clear that Ms. Dottie had been parking in space 1 since even before she moved in Unit T. The testimony of the other tenant witnesses support that she'd also been parking in a second space, either space 2 or carport 2, for years. But Ms. Dottie's entire claim to this second parking space as a housing service of her tenancy rests on her claim that when she moved into Unit T, she did so in an agreement with her prior landlord. And she failed to provide any evidence to substantiate this agreement with her prior landlord. When asked, as I mentioned before, for rent receipts that she claimed to possess that would substantiate her moving date, she didn't provide them. And she provided even contradictory testimony about the existence of a lease with her prior landlord. And as I have also mentioned, her claimed move-in date was after Community Corps had owned the property. Given that evidence, the hearing officer reasonably gave little weight to Ms. Dottie's testimony regarding her move-in date, and instead relied on the consistent business records of Community Corps to conclude that she'd actually moved into a unit in May 2001 in an agreement with Community Corps and not her prior landlord. Ms. Dottie didn't provide any other evidence to show that she had the right to a second space as a housing service. Nothing in the testimony of the tenant witnesses or Ms. Dottie's own contradicting and inconsistent testimony about the details of her parking configuration or the sequence of her vehicle ownership established her right to a second parking space when she had originally moved in to Unit T. Given that record, the hearing officer reasonably found that she failed to prove a right to the second space as a housing service of her tenancy. For those reasons, staff recommends, first, that the board reject the appeal as being untimely without a showing of good cause, and even if Ms. Dottie had good cause to file her appeal late, staff recommends that the board affirm the decision and its findings of fact and conclusions of law because that decision is reasonably supported by the record.
Can I ask a question?
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Trostis has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mordezai, for that thorough review. Can you tell me, does Ms. Dottie have any sort of health issues that would prevent her from being able to attend a virtual hearing or timely submit an appeal? Like anything that would prevent her that you noticed throughout the process?
There was nothing in the record, and certainly in her appeal, she didn't indicate that either.
And what about technological issues? Did she notify you of any tech issues?
No, as I mentioned before, she had been communicating regularly through email just even weeks before the deadline for the appeal. And that was as far as the technological issues goes, there wasn't anything in the record to substantiate.
Okay, thanks. Go further.
Commissioner Foster?
Mr. Mordezai, can you remind the public what methods of communication we are using in light of remote hearings processes due to COVID? Is it just email, or are we also doing written correspondence and telephone?
If we have people's email, then we communicate with email. If for some reason somebody doesn't have emails, then we do communicate through through the mail in order to do that. But pretty much back in a case where the communication has been through email and there hasn't been an issue, there had been no reason to do otherwise.
Are there any further questions from Mr. Mordezai? Commissioner Phillips?
I believe Commissioner is muted still.
So sorry, I don't have a question for Mr. Mordesai. I thank him for his staff report. I would like to be in the queue for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mordesai. Let's discuss, and Commissioner Phyllis, you can start us off.
So while I do think we would, let me step back. I think the standard for good cause is very low. This is someone who's unrepresented, who doesn't have a lawyer advising them what to do. I also think that there's a general public good to hearing things on the merits. Usually it makes people feel better. I think it's what our constituents would want. If we're here tonight, I would be inclined to reach the merits. However, so I'm just saying, I think we should reach the merits. I think the standard for good cause is extremely deferential and very low. People have had documented difficulties with mail service. I think that, regardless of the other credibility issues, that's fine. Not sure that email service is an authorized method of service under Santa Monica's administrative procedures. And so, while I believe Mr. Mordesai that she likely had notice, I think there's good enough cause to excuse a brief delay, particularly in the absence of prejudice to anyone else, including the respondent. I think that the credibility issues move me against the appeal for all of the reasons why Mr. Mordesai stated. So while I would be inclined to entertain the appeal for good cause, I would not be inclined to grant it for all of the reasons stated. And I do believe the credibility issues are significant.
Commissioner Trosses? We can't hear you.
Is Ms. Dottie or anyone on behalf of the petitioner appellant here?
My understanding was nobody wished to speak on this item. Is that correct, Secretary Howe?
Correct. No request to speak on this item.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Commissioner Phyllis. I did read the staff report and the significant supporting documents. I obviously see this has had a long history. Even if we find that there was, good cause as to why she didn't timely file an appeal and file it 1 month later, even looking at everything in the record and hearing the staff report, I would not be inclined to grant her appeal. So I guess we would have to say what our recommendation is here. So it sounds like two people are agreeing that yes, even we're willing to hear the case, and even hearing it, we're going to agree with the hearing officer.
We vote on that separately?
I don't know. I'm just trying to figure that out. But it looks like before we do anything, Commissioner Duran has a comment.
Okay, sorry, excuse me here. I'm working through a patch through it with my
Steve, you're on.
audio.
Steve.
So I'm a little less lenient, I guess, on the deadline because it's 40 days. If it was maybe 3 or 4 days, I could see where that would be maybe a little more reasonable. But nonetheless, I think that even if we were to hear it on the merits, I agree with my fellow commissioners that she failed to meet her burden of proof on winning the appeal. So I would agree with the commissioners Trosses and Phyllis as to their ultimate ruling. So anyway, the question was asked about whether we should vote on the appeal, on the procedural aspect first, and I believe we probably should to keep a clean record.
Is that accurate?
And then we could decide to vote on the merits if we want to do that. That would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, so do we want to vote to hear the appeal?
I'll move that.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay.
Oh, we have Ms. Reagan's here.
Did you want to Okay. So it sounds like we need to vote separately.
Yeah, she wants us to vote to decide whether to hear it and then to, yeah, okay. So the motion stands, right? Yeah. We're going to do a vote, yeah.
Motion and a second. Let's take a vote. Secretary Ho?
Yes. Commissioner Torosis,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Phyllis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duran,
Yes.
and Chair Sultan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. So commissioners, it didn't sound as though we had a disagreement on ultimately what we want to do here, but do other folks have comments?
Doesn't sound
I'll
Okay.
move to deny the appeal for the reasons stated in the staff report and affirm the hearing officer's findings of facts and conclusions of law for the reasons stated in the staff report.
I'll second that.
motion by Commissioner Phyllis, second by Commissioner Torosis. Take a vote on the appeal. Secretary Ho?
Yes. Commissioner Torosis,
Yes.
Commissioner Phyllis,
I'm sorry, what? Did you call my name?
yes.
Yeah.
Commissioner Phyllis,
Sorry, I thought you said Commissioner Fuller. I was like, what's that? That's a yes from me. Thank you.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duran,
Yes.
and Chair Sultan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Our next item is, okay. 10B1, it's an owner occupancy exemption.
Oops, no.
Sorry, Chair Sultan, there's actually item 10A2.
Oh, sorry. My mistake. Item 10A2 is a decrease petition, D5282, 927 2nd Street. May we have a staff report on 10A2?
Certainly, Commissioners. Lori Searle is the tenant of Unit 4 who filed a rent decrease petition because she was saying that her kitchen sink backed up. And the record showed that it had a history of backing up on a periodic basis, particularly when the next door unit was occupied. But the hearing officer, after reviewing the record, saw that whatever plumbing problems Ms. Searle may have experienced had been resolved by recent repairs, and particularly repairs that the landlord had done after her most recent complaint to the building's main line. She concluded that the evidence doesn't show a current maintenance problem with the kitchen sink, and therefore no decrease was warranted. Ms. Searle has appealed that decision. She says that she still has experiences backups, and she also says that the owner didn't provide evidence that showed that he had undertaken repair to the building main line, and that she also had not been informed of the repair to the main line. But the record includes evidence that the owner did in fact repair the building's main line after Ms. Searle's most recent complaint, and the hearing investigator even went out there and did a virtual site visit, and when she did so, it showed that the sink was working fine. So the record reasonably supports the hearing officer's conclusion that there are no ongoing problems with the kitchen sink. As to Ms. Searle's statement that she still continues to have problems, the hearing officer in her decision waived the 6-month period that Ms. Searle would usually have to wait before filing a new rent decrease petition for the same condition. And because the hearing officer waived the 6-month waiting period, Ms. Searle may file a new petition for the alleged recurrence of the problem after the record was closed in the matter. And for those reasons, the staff recommends that the board affirm the hearing officer's decision on findings of fact and conclusions of law, and waive the 6-month rule for filing a new petition for the kitchen sink.
Thank you, Mr. Morzai. Are there any questions on the staff report?
I believe Commissioner Phyllis is waving her hand.
Oh.
No question. I just want to be in the queue when we go to Q&A. Sorry.
Okay. We do have so not seeing any questions. We do have a request to speak, I believe, from Ms. Searle. Secretary Ho, is Ms. Searle ready to speak?
Yes, Ms. Searle, you have 5 minutes to speak, after which you may be granted more time to speak if the board decides to allow it. You have been unmuted. Please go ahead.
Okay, excellent. Hi, everyone. Oh, shoot. Okay. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I do appreciate you for being here to address this and taking your time for this evening. It's my first time doing this, a little nervous, but I'm really here just to answer any questions that you guys might have in regards to this petition. I'll be brief in that I have consistent problems communicating with management for systemic building issues. Not just this one. This is not a single unit only issue. This is an issue with the entire building's plumbing main line. On the date of the mediation and the date of the hearing, the mediator and hearing officer instructed management to provide proof that they would clear and clean the mainline plumbing for the building. I never received this information. I was there for any dates that I was available for them to take care of this problem. I was never informed that this was going to take place or that it did take place. And we're still having problems. The kitchen plumbing issues go beyond any garbage disposal, backup, or any accusations made of me lodging any items into the sink. So this isn't just the kitchen sink. This is a systemic problem within the building mainline through the kitchen. And although it's protocol for me to file a rent decrease to alert rent control board that there's a serious problem, I really just want them to take care of the building and make the pipes, you know, for the complex usable, clean, and clear, so we don't have a backup weekly, monthly, etc., taking up a lot of people's time, including yours, when just a proper time-efficient resolution is best for everyone. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Searle. Do we have any questions for Ms. Searle? Looks like from Commissioner Phillips we do. No. Okay, Commissioner Phillips wants to begin deliberation. Are there any questions for Ms. Searle? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you so much for offering your testimony today. Okay, let's begin deliberations with Commissioner Phillips.
Given our extremely deferential standard of review, that in order to reverse the hearing officer's findings of fact and law, we would have to find that no reasonable person could have, based on the facts before us, ruled in favor of, ruled in the manner in which the hearing officer did. I feel beholden to the hearing officer's decision. I mean, the evidence from the invoice, I think, is compelling. That said, I'm concerned. Just one second. I am concerned about whether these incidents have in fact cured the issue. I think time will tell. And so I support, in particular, waiving the 6-month rule, particularly because it sounds like there may be other maintenance issues that Ms. Searle may want to seek a decrease for. And I think that makes sense. I think that's a fair approach. So I'd be in favor of, and I will move at the appropriate time to deny the appeal, approve the hearing officer's findings of fact and conclusions of law, and specifically waive the 6-month waiting period before for Ms. Searle to file a new petition based on the same problem.
Any other comments, Commissioner Trovosis?
Yeah, I'll just comment that I don't think there was a clearly erroneous decision made here. And I also support the waiving of the 6-month waiting period because, again, sounds like there's some systemic issues going on. Don't want to comment on that, but, you know, Ms. Searle definitely should avail herself of any process available to her and have that period waived. So I'm happy to make a motion unless folks want to talk.
Make your motion.
Supportive of the motion.
Yeah, so I move to affirm the hearing officer's decision of findings of fact, conclusions of law, and waive the 6-month rule for filing a new rent decrease petition for the kitchen sink.
We have a motion from Commissioner Trosis and from Commissioner Phyllis. Take a vote, Secretary.
Yes, Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Phyllis,
Yes.
Commissioner Trosis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duran,
Yes.
and Chair Sultan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Now we are in fact moving on to owner occupancy exemptions. Item 10B1, case number 1824 regarding 1322 to 1324 Ocean Park Boulevard. May we have a staff report on this item?
Sorry, can I just actually move that we waive? Move that we waive the staff report. I actually don't think that I need a staff report on any of the three. So I'm happy to take up all of them together, like we unfortunately have to do almost every meeting now. We have to grant owner occupancy exemptions because we are statutorily required to. Not something I like doing, but all of these were pretty clear that the applicant met the statutory requirements. So I don't know, I move that we waive the staff report and we vote on each item one by one, or should we vote on them all together?
I agree. We didn't have any, there were no tenants or anybody contesting.
Sorry, am I pronouncing your last? It's Regan, right? Not Reagan.
Yes, Regan.
I'm so sorry. I realized I pronounced it wrong last time.
It's okay.
Ms. Regan, can you just tell us, can we vote on them all together, or should we take them up one by one?
You can vote on them as a group. There are no speakers and no one's in opposition, so you can vote on them collectively.
Great. So I move that we waive the staff reports for items 10B1 through 10B3, and that we adopt the recommendation of staff to grant the owner occupancy exemptions. And
Second. Oh,
adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law in all three cases. Yeah.
I'll second that. Sorry for jumping again.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Tarosa, second from Commissioner Phyllis. Let's vote on granting 10B1 to 10B3.
Commissioner Phyllis,
Yes.
Commissioner Trosis. I'm sorry, Commissioner Trosis,
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duran,
Yes.
and Chair Sultan.
Yes,
Motion's carried.
thank you. Okay, we will now hold I hear an echo. That's unfortunate. Now hold a public hearing on whether to repeal Regulation 3001, and with a staff report summarizing the issue and including any recommendations.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. This is an update to the regulations just to make sure that they're consistent with current law. When Regulation 3001 was adopted, the agency still had the ability to regulate rents across.
Sorry. I'm sorry. It's the barking and the digging. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It's really loud.
They have the ability to regulate rents across tenancies. As we know with Costa-Hawkins, we no longer have the ability to do that. And there's an additional state law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of income. So as a result of those, this regulation is now obsolete, and it's creating some confusion among various housing providers. And so staff recommends that it now be repealed. Thank you.
Great. I will move. I think this is pretty straightforward. I don't have any questions. Unless anyone else does. I'm happy to hear from the public. We have to hear from the public first, right? Or to open the public hearing? Do we vote to open the public hearing first?
You don't have to vote.
You don't have to vote, Ms. Condon?
That's correct. You can just open the public hearing, and if there's nobody requesting to speak, close the public hearing, and then you can make the motion.
Okay, let's open the public hearing. I don't believe we have any requests to speak from the public.
That's right.
Okay. So, I guess we can close the public hearing.
Right.
Great. So then I guess I'll continue that I move that we repeal regulation 2001 as indicated in attachment A.
Second.
Right, motion from Commissioner DeRosa, second from Commissioner Phyllis. Let's take a vote. Secretary Ho, please.
Commissioner DeRosa,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Phyllis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duran,
Yes.
and Chair Sultan.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Okay, moving on to administrative items. Our first item is a presentation on city and rent control agencies' reorganized and updated website.
Good evening, Commissioners. So the redesign of the city's website is a process that began in 2019, and it was guided by the Office of Communications initially. An outside company was hired to identify the issues with the current city websites, and a process began with interviewing all of the departments about their content, how people used their information, and they looked at a lot of analytics and ultimately determined that the public was struggling to navigate the old website structure. Information in the past was organized by department, but that didn't help people if you didn't know which department did a particular thing or provided a certain service. So it was difficult for people to find the information that they wanted. The bounce rates were very high on a lot of pages, so people came in and then they left right away, not finding what they were looking for. A lot of city pages were never visited at all, and there was a lot of out-of-date information that never got purged. So, and also there was really a lack of cohesion in the way that all of the pages looked and the way that information was presented. When they did this study, they determined there were 55,000 web pages under various domain names. There were 65 different domain names, all kind of related to smgov.net. So a determination was made that it was necessary to overhaul the city's websites and, and the menu and the structure of all the information. Also, the content management system that was used to maintain smgov.net is dated, and it lacks the functionality and ease of use of more modern systems. So, unfortunately, not far into the process, the vendor that was hired to do this wasn't meeting the expectations of the city, and their contract was terminated. And for a time, the city was looking for a new vendor that could take this project on. But when COVID struck in 2020 and the city had to restructure, they decided to take this project on themselves. Really, the city's information services department became the lead on the project. So we have been working closely with them since then. smgov.net actually first launched in October of 2020. There wasn't much content there, but it's established a platform. And since then, we've been working in earnest to reformat the information that we have on our site and conform to the new information architecture on santamonica.gov. So last week, the city began shutting down those pages that were on smgov.net. There are some pages that continue to be accessible. This is partly because this is the first phase of this project to move to santamonica.gov, and there's more to come. But you'll find that some links actually take you back to smgov.net, and included among those are the board agendas, minutes, and videos page, also our look up a rent function, and a couple of the other major components of our website. It's expected that in the next 4 to 6 weeks, they will develop some new solutions for the agendas, minutes, and videos, which of course is a solution that's also needed by other boards and by the city council. I'll show you the website in a minute, but one of the first most noticeable things is that there's a unified look and feel to the new website. This really kind of came from its origins in the Office of Communications, so there's an alignment with the branding and tone of voice guidelines that were developed in 2019, and that we've been following too, with like the new city logo, and there's a city font, and the way information is supposed to look, color palettes, that sort of thing. The other thing you'll notice is that the pages are all based on templates. There aren't very many types of templates. There are, I think, maybe 7 at the current moment. And so the way that information is presented on a page is very consistent, whether you're looking at a library page, or you're looking at a rent control page, or you're looking at something from the city clerk's office. One of the goals was to have a website that was very responsive to the way that people access information today, really kind of based on what the user experience is. And I was very interested to learn that 80% of the people who come on to the city's website are coming on via a mobile phone. And this is a trend that's been continuing for the last couple of years. Apparently, a couple of years ago, that was only 65% of people. So the new website design is very mobile friendly, and depending on which device you're using, the information will reconfigure. So it's kind of dynamic. And I encourage you at some point to, if you've got an iPad or another tablet, to take a look at santamonica.gov. I think it looks pretty slick. Another thing that was a goal was to make it the content more inclusive. So at the top of every page, there is a translation button, and you can select from dozens of languages, and the content will be automatically translated. I'm sure that's helpful for some people. Also, all of the website content is now ADA compliant, so anybody using assistive technology should be able to navigate through the site. All of the images have naming conventions on them, etc. And another thing is, rather than the kind of traditional navigational structure that you might imagine for a website, sort of a tree structure, the emphasis now is on exploration, or really what more commonly might be called search. So there are many ways where you can search the information on santamonica.gov and get to the information you want. So whether you may not know that it's a housing program, or maybe it's community services, or maybe it's rent control, using the search, the idea is that you'll get to the information that you're looking for. And the information is very topically based. So it's intended to sort of elevate content in multiple locations so that users can find new programs, places, processes, and services just by searching for a particular topic. I explained that there are templates. A couple of the major ones, first of all, there's a department landing page template, and the landing pages are intended to provide an overview of each department, a breakdown of the divisions, the latest news and updates, top resources, a list of department leadership, and we're going to continue to develop these pages with other service enhancements. Another type of page is called a topic explainer, and there is the main rent control topic explainer page, and that's where we imagine the public will interact mostly with our content, because that's where the registration forms are, the fee waiver forms, the lookup of rent function, things like that. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And then the last page that I'll talk about is called a process explainer. And this is a new kind of thing, and it's something that I'm excited about, and I think it's going to be very helpful for our users because it gives step-by-step instructions on how to do something. And in fact, there are tabs with available methods to do that. So it might be an online function, it might be an email thing, it might be something you have to do in person or through a mobile app. And it's going to be a great place for us to provide instructions for users of our civics program. This is part of Rent 2020, which will allow owners to file registration forms with us or exemption applications, just about anything. And these process explainer pages will take them through it. So with that, let me share my screen and show you our new website. So are you seeing the new city website?
No, not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
Costello, I have a question in the interim.
Sure.
Ask you. So I noticed that our current website doesn't have any sort of exploration page for regs, right? So like when you go to the rent control page, it says the top resources, right, are look up a rent, back. So you go to the landing page and it says top resources, and then it says rent control board, rent control law, and oh, there they are. So it just says the rent control law, and then it doesn't say the regs. And here's my problem. I was trying to find the regs when I was prepping for the meeting, and I kept Googling the regs, and the regs, when I would Google it, would default back to our old yellow page and not our new page. And so I'm a little confused by that. Also, if I could suggest that when it says like the rent control law, if we can also say the rent control law and regulations. Otherwise, I feel like people are going to be very confused about trying to find our regs.
Sure,
I would
okay.
be confused by finding our regs.
All right.
Sorry, this is, yeah, okay. This is.
Now we see it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is the main landing page for the city, and there are lots of ways to get to various content. our department is kind of most logically under your city hall, and then you would navigate over to departments, and either you could come here to rent control, or if you clicked on departments, there's a list of city departments, trying to get a look at the tiles that are common across different pages, and here's rent control. So this takes us to the rent control department landing page, and this is what Commissioner Phyllis was just talking about. Here's the rent control law tile. When you click on that, it lists it shows the charter amendment and regulations, and then there are links to the various regulations with a description of what content you might find there.
All right, so I have a couple questions on this particular page, because if you actually go to the search function up at the top right of the page, you hit like the magnifying glass and you do rent control regulations, and you run a search for it. I just did it, and then and then I just see Santa Monica rent control regulations by subject. If you scroll down.
Yes, so let me explain what's
our yellow page, our old page, and it
right.
doesn't link to the new one.
Right. What I'll explain is right now, because smgov.net still exists, there are certain pages there. When you do a search, it is still pointing back. A lot of times it's pointing back to smgov.net. I know that the Information Services Department has communicated with Google, and Google is no longer going to be showing these results from smgov.net. So it will limit the choices that you see here when you do search for.
Oh, so is that just like a Google API?
I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that it is Google related, and so it's. But right now it is confusing because it's showing content that is really out of date. And on some of these, if you click on them, you're going to get the link is broken.
It's always been like that, though.
But just kind of going back to an overview. So as I said before, the rent control board tile is really pointing back to smgov.net because there is not yet a solution. But there will be in 4 to 6 weeks. Part of the issues are the video archives, and they need to have an API to them from the new content management system. But you should be able to find what you're looking for here. We had to consolidate the Meet the Board page with this one because we have only one link from the department landing page to this currently. There are a couple of issues with some of the minutes and video archives, especially from 20 to 2016, but we're troubleshooting that currently. Maximum lawful rent is basically an explanation of what is, the maximum lawful rent. It's a very important subject for people under rent control, and we have links here. Each page often, of course, has links, and like you can go to the summary here. They go out to a PDF that shows what the general adjustments have been historically. We have another important subject, which is paying registration fees, and I'll come back to that in. I can go into it right now. So this links to one of the process explainer pages because this is a transactional thing. And it takes you out to process explainer that looks like this. All of them sort of look like this. There's a how-to explanation of what you're trying to do here. And then there are various tabs depending on how you want to do this thing. How do you want to pay your registration fees? Do you want to pay in person? Then we give you how to do that. If you want to do it by mail, we'll explain the steps for doing it there. Or if you're a modern person and you want to do it the easy way, you'll click on online, and we show you the steps for paying online. Each of these pages also have FAQs at the bottom, so if you lost your bill and you need to know that, or you want to know about fee waivers, that information is here. We're trying to cross-reference a lot of the information. Our reports are right here. There is a plan to reconfigure this page. This is sort of a fake of and the santamonica.gov page, but the links all work back to the PDFs of our annual report and that sort of thing. So this is, as I said, the department landing page, and so these include the divisions. And so if somebody wanted to know what does rent control do, what are the divisions within rent control, that information's here. Our related news is, this is very different from what we've had on our old site, where we had news and announcements on our landing page, and that was in the center section. Now we need to conform to this format. I will just say these are placeholder blog posts. We have more current information that we're going to bring in here, like our most recent newsletter. When we have our new annual report, we'll put that here. Any other related news. So these come through the city's blog post. And there's a leadership profile on all the department pages. And there's our beloved leader. So not entirely believing in this search function, I thought it was important to have a navigational component to our topic explainer page, and that's what this tile is. So this leads you right over to Santa Monica, or rent control in Santa Monica. This is the topic explainer. And here's where I said we have lots of things that are of interest to people, like to look up a rent program or a document portal, the apartment listing service. Here are links to the various forms somebody might file. And again, these take you out to a process explainer.
Dan, can I ask a question really quickly?
Yeah, sure.
So when you say that you're working out this issue with the city and it's going to be in the next 4 to 6 weeks, is that, I just want to make sure I'm clarified, is that the issue that we have to take their exact same template for every department and use it, and or is that a different issue? Like, can we customize this? Because it seems like we did not customize this. That this is just the template that we got as a department in the city. Tell me if I'm wrong. Like, shouldn't we have all of our like if it says our leadership, like, shouldn't we have more than Tracy on there? I don't know. It's just
well, actually, to be honest, the rest of the leadership will be there. If I go back to our landing page.
Okay.
Yes. So, in fact, there are going to be pictures of all of the department or division heads here. There's not going to be a profile of, say, Allison Regan or Tracy Matty Dupp or myself, but basically our department, and then who is the one in charge of that department. So we're just waiting to, actually they're doing very standard photos, as you'll see with Tracy's in Tonga Park. So they are scheduling a photo shoot for
so
all the division leaders.
So, like, are all the departments having to use the same template that we have? That's another question.
Yes.
Okay, because I feel like well, I'm not here to give my feedback because I'm not in the queue because you're not done, but I have a little concern with, like, the navigation aspect of the website. Anyway, keep going.
Well,
I think we're probably all on our own computers right now looking at it at the same time as you're presenting it. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's very different from, what we have had, although if you recall on the, the left-hand side of our homepage, we had, various tabs that people could click on, and a lot of those are mirrored here. So I made sure that all of our existing content did come over. it may be that people aren't used to where to find it quite yet, but I am hopeful that people will be able to find things. We can look at the search function a little bit more, but it is helpful to find, say, you just come on to santamonica.gov, and let's say you want a petition for rent decrease. I mean, you can just go up here, the search, and let's do, oops, I should spell it right. Put petition decrease, and the first result is how to file a petition for rent decrease, which takes you right into the process explainer and how you can get that done. We try to build in all the things that people often do wrong and try to make sure that we address those up front. So I know it's different. It's not what we're used to, but I think that we can get people to use this. I think in some ways it is straightforward. You could ask me something that you're looking for, and I could probably tell you where we can find it. But just along that line, there are, because of the limitations in the templates, we don't have as many places to put information. So like here, registering ownership, tenancies, and amenities are all together. But with one click, I mean, you can find the different things that you need to do. Of course, people who use our new civics program would be able to do these things using that rather than coming to the website. But we had to consolidate a lot of information in an information by subject page, which is still under development. But this is where, we have to kind of link out to PDFs with more information about, process. Like if you wanted to the buyout agreements, you'd have to come here. We also, nice thing about this too is like you can buyout agreements. You can also click on that, and there's a process explainer about what owners need to do if they offer a buyout agreement. They have to give an information sheet to the tenant prior to making the offer. Make sure that they wait the requisite number of days and then file the copy of it with us. So,
wait, sorry, but what if you're the tenant and you get offered a buyout agreement? That on a process explainer?
No, it's not, but the owner must provide a copy of an information sheet. So that's the very first thing, a notice of tenant's rights with respect to a buyout offer.
Okay, I just want to make sure, the only thing I'm concerned about is that this process explainer explains the process really well, but how do we even know that these are the questions that people have? I would love to see some analytics, maybe at a future meeting after the website is totally up and running, on the effectiveness of the previous website versus this website, and which pages people are clicking on, et cetera, et cetera. Then we'll actually have some information to go off of. Sorry, I know that we want to get to the end of this presentation because I do think my colleagues have some comments as well.
No, that's fine, and certainly I was going to conclude by saying that we do intend to look at the analytics after there's been some user experience with this to see what's hitting, what's not hitting, what needs what other solutions we need to build. That's ultimately, that's pretty much an overview of it. If you want to ask some more questions or you want to look around, there's lots of.
What's one thing the public needs to know? I mean, even more so than just for us, like what, sorry, Anastasia's going to kill me. I see your face. Sorry. Go. I just, like, in your concluding remarks, is there one thing the public should know about what's different about the website?
Well, I still hope that it's navigable. I mean, I think that, they need to know the search function. I mean, first of all, our department landing page is santamonica.gov/rent control. And, that, with one click there to more rent control topics, it takes you to this page with, all of the, kind of the most common things that people do with rent control: apply for exemptions or file petitions or fee waiver applications, register tenancies, ownership. We have look up a rent, seminars. So they, like anything, there's going to be a slight learning curve. It's different. People are not going to find things where they found them before. However, I will say that through this process, the city has gone from 55,000 web pages with 65 domain names to about 1,000 web pages with one domain name. So theoretically, there's an ease of access there because it's a cleaner path. There's only one place to go. And, with the search functions, I'm hopeful that people will be able to find the information they need. Of course, anybody who can't find something they need can always call us or email us, and we'll, direct them and, talk them through the site. Initially, I expect that we'll be doing that quite a bit. But I'm also hopeful that, it's a clean design, and people should be able to learn to navigate this. So.
Thanks. It looks like there's a lot of really great information on here, so I look forward to learning to navigate it myself. And
yeah, I do encourage you to take a look through it, and hopefully some of your fears may be allayed. I was, very concerned about the difference from, our old smgov.net site. But as I said, there were problems with that site. I mean, it was very hard to maintain. We had one person, who knew how to do the updates. Now we've got 4. So there are a lot of benefits to this new approach. And I don't see another option other than, hosting our own pages on our own server at our own cost. And so I don't know, but
understood. Commissioner Foster, I believe you had a question or a comment.
Yes, thank you. Well, I had thought of it quite a ways back in the presentation, and just there's having to use that giant photo of the city at the, City Hall at the top. Our old page, of course, it was COBOL, Fortran, it was ancient, but it had everything at a glance on the front page. This one has so much white space, and there's not enough punctuation. When I was working with a developer on another website, a major factor were bullet points and dashes and things that draw the eye to like different topics. There's just so much white space and so much wasted empty space and so much room in between the sections. Some of the constituents I've worked with in the past said that one of the best things about our website was that everything at like the latest news was right there in the center, in the 4 little paragraphs in the center of our site, latest news, and all the quick grab were right there. Instead, we have, a giant photo of City Hall and so much scrolling. It's really not efficient. I do love the top resources section. I think that's fine. But I'm just hoping, instead of trying to address anything I've said specifically, because it's not the time or the place for that, could you tell us very briefly, what kind of time frame is there for making adjustments? And would you like us to suggest things specifically? Do you want the public to suggest things? Or are you simply going to wait for the analytics?
Well, you're welcome to suggest things. You know, we have to operate within certain constraints. What I would like to respond, though, to the, you know, all information in one, you know, one page. That's fine if you're maybe looking on a large computer screen, but when 80% of the people come in on a mobile device, all that text is very small, and you have to zoom in and try to find, you know, what you're looking for, and then you lose the rest of the page. And, you know, the concept here is that, you know, it's got to be mobile friendly. So, you know, do try to look at it on your phone or on a tablet and see if you still have the same concerns. But I hear you. You know, I'm open to suggestions. I'd have to work within the constraints. That's all I can say.
And I'm sorry, Dan. I know that, I mean, you guys have been struggling with vendors, and like you said at the top of the presentation, it's been such I mean, Tracy has spent, you know, thousands of hours, all of you have, on this project. And we know that the functionality behind it is going to be great, and as the forms are going to be there, and all the things people need are going to be there. I think we're just nitpicking the facade, and I know we'll get there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that presentation. I think it's going to be a great improvement.
2022 is going to bring us a lot of changes, and this was the first one, week one. Hopefully
again.
we'll all be for the good.
Passed it well. Secretary Condon, did you want to comment or just pop
No,
out?
no, I just wanted to thank Dan for showing us the new website. And as Dan said, 2022 is going to be a year of changes for us. This is the first, and as I mentioned to the board previously, we've now started the data conversion for our new database, our replacement for our historic rent database. Today was the last day of updating rent. So we're really moving forward. It's happening. And the online opportunity to file forms and things will be incorporated into the website through our civics platform. That's part of our new database. So it's an exciting time of change with challenges.
Thank you. Okay. I believe I'm going to move
Thank
on.
you. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Condon and Mr. Okay, moving on to our final item of the day, basically, prior to adjournment. Time to select a new chair and vice chair. I believe Commissioner Foster, motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you for recognizing me. I'd like to nominate Steve Duran to be the next chair of the Santa Monica Rent Control Board. And Naomi, I've got to say, you started out the year wondering what it was going to be like, and I think you did a fabulous job. Thank you so much for your service, and you handled COVID and remote meetings like a champ, and just like Commissioner Phillips before you. In 2 years of COVID meetings, you guys have handled this platform that's not always easy with aplomb and grace. So thank you.
I will second that. Do we do that? Yes, right? We vote, or we don't? We just vote on. Yeah.
And then we vote, right?
Thank you both. I appreciate it. Really do.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you. It's just this thing of you on the phone is still.
You gotta figure that out before you're.
Steve, when I was yelling when you picked up the phone, I was like, Steve, you're not on mute, Steve. So I'm really sorry.
I'm technically challenged, but here I am.
But committed. Okay, so let's take a vote on Steve's potential, or Commissioner Duran's potential chairship.
Okay, Commissioner Foster. Commissioner Phyllis.
Yes.
Commissioner Torosis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duran,
Yes.
and Chair Sultan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all. I really appreciate your vote.
Oh, great. Chair Duran, here we come. I'm happy to nominate a vice chair if that's what we're doing. Does Chair Duran take over now or after?
At the next meeting. Next
month.
meeting, right.
I'm going to step aside. Oh, wait. Okay, so you nominate.
I'm going to nominate Anastasia for vice chair. I think, right? Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Thank you. I accept.
So we have a motion and a second for Commissioner Foster as vice chair, and let's take a vote.
All right. Commissioner Foster,
Sure. Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Torosis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duran,
Yes.
and Chair Sultan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. Well, just before we adjourn, can I say something? I would just like to thank Chair Sultan. I know that this was not something that you came to easily, and I know you were nervous about assuming this role, and I think that you did a wonderful job, steady hand. Thank you for governing over our meetings. Appreciate you. We're going to miss having you as our chair, so congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all. I've appreciated, all of your support and working with you has been a pleasure, and look forward to the rest of. Okay, so it's about time to adjourn. The next meeting of the Rent Control Board is February 10th, 2022, via teleconference again on our Blue Jeans platform. Let's take a vote regarding adjournment. See, I remembered at my last meeting that we have to vote to adjourn. Better late than never.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah, Secretary, you're here. Oh, but I did get the motion. Okay,
Carolyn?
so a motion and a second. Okay, Secretary Ho, if you're there, let's vote.
All right. Commissioner Torosis,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips, Vice Chair Duran,
Yes.
and Chair Sultan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Good
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye, Haka.